The Tennessee Titans got their guy. Cam Ward is going to be leading the charge for Tennessee in the 2025 season. They've got their new head coach, Brian Callahan, to be able to lead this team forward. The tough part of this is for the 2025 regular season, they start off the year with a very tough two-game stretch. They're at the Broncos to start the year. Before we get into the prediction and previews, go over a little bit what the draft was. They got Cam Ward, of course, first overall. Everyone knows that. The transfer from Washington State, a prolific year. They also got his wide receiver, his favorite target a season ago, undrafted signing of Xavier Restrepo from Miami. A very good player for the Canes, and Mario Cristobal. Kevin Winston, who had an injury later in the season, the back end of the Penn State defense, as well as guys like Kalel Mullings from Michigan, who was a big part of them beating the Ohio State Buckeyes for the fourth time in a row. This is amongst the other talent that they were able to pick up, like Olafemi Oladejo from UCLA, Gunnar Helm from Texas. Some good talent to add into that roster. By no means is this roster ready to win. Of course, the AFC South is one of the weaker divisions in an NFL, but there's only one team that you have to fully worry about, the Houston Texans, with that stacked roster and good quarterback play. But there is a window here in the next couple of years where they could potentially compete with them if it all works out with Cam Ward, and he is the franchise guy they believe him to be. So let's go. At the Broncos to start the season, have them losing to Denver simply because of Denver's ability in the secondary. Holy cow. Gunnar Helm, the tight end, knows all about his former teammate from a year ago. Back-to-back college football playoff appearances for Texas. Jahdae Barron, the first-round pick for Denver, as well as the defensive player of the year in Pat Surtain. Where is Cam Ward going to go besides Calvin Ridley? Like Tyler Lockett, they brought in from Seattle, a bit of that veteran ability. Van Jefferson, I mentioned Restrepo. They also got Alec Ayomanor from Stanford. If you remember, Travis Hunter's the worst game of his career. I think Ayomanor had like 290 in that game against Colorado in a crazy 28-point comeback win on a it was just absurd what that game was. But a loss against the Broncos to start the year. And then it's the Rams. I have the Rams as the best team in the NFC next season with the bringing in of Davante Adams. If I'm being honest, I think he's better than Cooper Kupp at this stage because of his ability to go up and get the ball, savviness as a route runner. You just saw how productive he was with Aaron Still, and he's got plenty of juice left. A loss against the Rams, they hold them to 23 points, but only able to muster 13. Why? Because of how good that Rams front is. Byron Young, Braden Fisk in the middle, Jared Verse. Those are tremendous young players and talent that will continue to improve. And if they see them 4 years after that and beyond it, they're going to see the same guys at the peak stage of their career. An 0-2 start for Tennessee. Their first winnable game, in the opinion for me, is against the Colts. It's at home against them in week 3. And this is a game where they can lean a little bit into Cam Ward's right arm and throwing the football down the field. Where I see a weakness, right, Tony Pollard, Dallas in particular, feel all too great about him. That's why they're fine. Let him go. Tyjae Spears in the backfield. I mentioned Mullings, like the draft pick, but is Mullings going to be playing for Tennessee? Is he getting more than 10 carries next year? In all likelihood, he's not, and he's a practice squad or a guy that's there for depth if someone goes down. Spears has been there, right? The pick in 2023, I want to say it was. With the run game, can they get any establishment of the run game to help out Cam Ward? And it's not all on him going into next year. Of course, that offensive line with the likes of like Peter Skoronski in the middle there. Kevin Zeitler is a good player, like right guard from Detroit. Couldn't altogether pay him. J.C. Latham, we remember from Alabama. Like, there is good talent on the offensive line to protect Cam Ward against, like, Latu on the Colts D line from UCLA. Oladeju's former teammate. There is DeForest Buckner in the middle there. The secondary, of course, we know Zaire Franklin, Kenny Moore. Like, the Colts have good players. They have them losing 34-27 because of an inability to stop Jonathan Taylor. The quarterback's position, you could be a lot less worried about it if you are the Tennessee Titans because is it going to be Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, Riley Leonard? Don't really know for sure who it's going to be, but a loss that drops them to 0-3, and it doesn't get any easier. And I think that the Texans are maybe the best team in the AFC next year with the guys that they took. Love those picks in Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, the Iowa State great wide receivers that were carrying them to that Big 12 championship a year ago before they got beat by ASU. A blowout loss, 28-10 to start off the year for Cam Ward. Brutal. And that's the first time where he gets a real taste of the NFL. Like, holy shoot. Like, the Broncos defense doesn't quite have that Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. flying off the edge. That is a defense that is ready to roll. And then in the back end, they've got studs in Stingley and Bullock. And of course, the offense, not just Nolan Higgins. There's Nico Collins. There's Tank Dell if he's coming back. Dalton Schultz. Now Stroud's going to be able to pick them apart. Week 5 at the Cardinals. This is going to be a heartbreaker. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. That's where the offense really is going to run through. Of course, Joe Mixon down there in Arizona. Of course, James Conner running the offense through him down there in Arizona. They're going to try and funnel the ball through McBride, through Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler's legs, and establish that. And then the defense for Arizona, they went so heavy on it the first couple of picks. Of course, Walter Nolan out of Mississippi and Jordan Birch from Oregon. They went so heavy Big Ten. 2 Buckeyes with Denzel Burke and Cody Simon. Will Johnson, the corner. So I would see Will Johnson being able to be siloed up one-on-one with Calvin Ridley throughout the day. And that's an opportunity for Ridley to win some one-on-ones against who might be one of the better young corners in football, depending on how those knees are. In 0-5, another loss for Tennessee. Pretty much at this point, you're like watching college football if you're Tennessee. It's like, how's DJ Lagway playing? How's Arch Manning looking? Like, how's Lenore Sellers? It doesn't matter because you took your first quarterback 1 overall. You don't get another shot to take a quarterback next year. But with this start, it's like, okay, who are the other productive players? Names like Caleb Downs might starting to trickle in there where it's like, man, we're giving up a lot of big plays. Who's a player in college football that could fill in and be a guy that doesn't miss tackles? Caleb Downs is a guy to get used to be familiar with. If you were a Tennessee Titan fan who could very well be a top 5 pick. Peter Woods out of Clemson, TJ Parker out of Clemson, some edge guys to possibly fill in that front of the defense for Tennessee going forward. That's what you're looking at after you start off the season 0-5. Then they're at the Raiders and Ashton Jeanty versus Cam Ward, a fun matchup, not to mention Brock Bowers, of course. They've got Geno Smith at quarterback. They took Jack Bech, the wide receiver out of TCU. Of course, that story, so horrific and tragic, with his brother, New Year's Eve down there in New Orleans. It's one of the more heartbreaking stories, and of course, the Senior Bowl and his touchdown at the end, it was emotional. It's just so horrible for that family, and he will be just one of those impact players right away. I've got the Titans falling to 0-6 on this season. It is a winnable game, of course, but losing 20-14. A surprise one, because I've got the New England Patriots making a step forward. They were not a horrible team last year. Of course, when you're picking 5th overall, a lot of people are like, oh, you could be better. Sure, they can be. Will Campbell is going to get these guys right. Mike Vrabel is going to get the culture and bring everyone together in the staff of that oversight, right? A lot of coaches talk about player-led. That's a rookie coming in Will Campbell, an All-American left tackle from the SEC, the Southeast Conference, and LSU. Tag us to add it. Travion Henderson with that faith. He's a leadership. He was a captain with the Ohio State Buckeyes in that national championship team. It means so much to be that type of player. And New England will be better. I've got Tennessee with a big win, with Cam Ward performing well against that New England Patriot defense and winning 26-25 for their first win of the season before they head out to Lucas Oil Stadium in a matchup at Indianapolis and the Colts. Have them losing to Indy. Jonathan Taylor is going to have a surging year, especially when you can project a bit of struggles at the position of quarterback, the most important in sports. From them, I've talked a lot in the videos about the quarterback inconsistently that we're going to expect from them, but a lot of it's to do, like Josh Downs is a good player, Michael Pittman, good player, A.D. Mitchell, high on him and that defense. So how do you right the ship in a sense? How do you keep that keel even? It's with good running play and be like, we're turning the ball over too much. Let's hand it off to Jonathan Taylor. A loss moving them to 1-7 on the year before. Not much easier. A home game against the Los Angeles Chargers, a pure boa constrictor was the coolest word I've heard called about what the Michigan Wolverines were under head coach Jim Harbaugh in that national championship run in 2023. Joel Klatt calling them that was the perfect way, because maybe they had a slow start. We're only up like 7-3 midway through the second quarter, but they'd get a takeaway, they'd get field position, they'd just really tighten that grip in the middle 8, extend the lead, and then run the clock out with the football and force you to air it out. And when they had corners like Mikey Sainristil and Will Johnson, and they had Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, Josiah Stewart to know that defense, Junior Colson, who's now on the Chargers, they were able to just surround down the neck, and they would pound the football with Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, and Khalil Mack. That squad was tremendous, and we know why they won a natty. But that Chargers team is going to be an identity just like that, with just a little bit of elevated quarterback play and receiver core than what Michigan. It really just ran its offense, throwing it through Colston Loveland, whereas the Chargers now have Trey Harris, the Ole Miss star, Jackson Dart, just elevated that stock to be a second-round pick. Not to say he's not talented enough to be a second-rounder, it helped within that Lane Kiffin offense. And, of course, Omarion Hampton, my personal favorite pick of the first round of the draft, that Harbaugh didn't go Will Johnson at corner, that he went with the biggest need. He wants that running back that's arguably more important than his quarterback in that system with McCarthy, was how good his running backs were. They had combined for like 30 touchdowns. The bye week comes at that spot. They're 1-8 on the year. Bye is in week 10, and then week 11, they've just got a tough matchup against their divisional opponents in the Houston Texans. I talked about the weapons that this team has, but they just have so many different ways to beat you. First guy, of course, that comes to name is once again Will Anderson. The fact that they were able to just put all their chips forward and get Will Anderson and CJ Stroud in the same draft and say, hey, we're going to put all that capital forward, and the fact that those guys are just performing at such a high level, that's how you transform your team in a single draft and go on to win a playoff game and be in the divisional round in the first year under that new system of what the Houston Texans were 2 years ago. And then last year, of course, the win against the Chargers in the playoffs. That's a great football team. A loss 51-10 I've got written down here. Tennessee against Houston. The Seattle Seahawks come to Tennessee. When is like that performance that, okay, there's a reason he was taken 1 overall. We could for sure see it earlier in the year. I like that Seattle matchup. At home, Seahawks coming in, stumbling, bumbling a little bit throughout the year. Under the leadership of Sam Darnold, maybe Jalen Milroe starting at this point. Would love to see Jalen Milroe at quarterback. Not that I don't want to see an injury Sam Darnold, of course, but Jalen Milroe versus Cam Ward would just be such a fun matchup, even if both these teams are trending in different directions. Possibly the future for both of these organizations going forward. Have the Titans beating the Seahawks, whether it's Milroe or it is Sam Darnold at quarterback, 28-24. Then they face off for the first time against their divisional foes, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You have Cam Ward facing off against Trevor Lawrence and, of course, Brian Thomas. On the defense, Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker, of course talent. Travis Hunter, who, of course, is going to help out Brian Thomas on the outside and provide versatility for Trevor Lawrence and who he wants to target the ball to. We'll see that Calvin Ridley, Travis Hunter matchup. Hopefully Travis is able to play like every snap like he did in college for the most part and have over 1,000 snaps once again and just be that force and stay healthy. It would be amazing to see him face off against Cam Ward. Have them losing 20-22. A road game at the Dog Pound against the Cleveland Browns. Now, Cleveland is interesting because of the quarterback spot, but you don't always want to be interesting at the quarterback spot. Typically, you don't want to be. You want to be solid and know what you have. Joe Flacco, probably the starter. And I want to let you know, like, while I'm filming this, if I'm bringing up players, I'm currently in Tanzania in Africa, checking out the wildebeest, crossing water, and trying not to get eaten by crocodiles in the great migration over there, because I'm making this video a couple weeks in advance. Got to just disclose that because I wanted that momentum and knew I was going to be in Africa for 2 weeks. there in August. So this is a couple of weeks ahead of when you're watching it. If I'm bringing up players that aren't going to be playing next year, if there's unfortunately any injuries or anything, that is why, because I don't yet know. I'm not aware of it. Against the Browns, I have them losing 20-24. Talked about the quarterback, but Mason Graham in the middle being able to shut down anything that the Titans are able to try to get going with Pollard or Tajay Spears. The secondary, of course, Denzel Ward. It was unfortunate Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah has that issue, like with his spine, with his neck. He's one of the more talented guys, and it just sucks. It's really awful to see it. Have the Titans getting their last win of the season, and it's only their third against the San Francisco 49ers on the road at Levi. For those that think San Francisco is a Super Bowl contender, I am sorry they're not. You know why? Because, they lost Deebo Samuel, and they lost Dre Greenlaw, and they also have, Trent Williams, who's getting older, paid all that money now to Brock Purdy, who's going to no longer be on that rookie contract, which is the most important, valuable thing in all of sports, is a good quarterback on a rookie contract. Purdy's no longer on that team is going to be stagnating around 7, 8, 9 wins in my foreseeable future for them because of paying all those guys that much money and a lot of that talent. At that point, 3-11 and going to host the Kansas City Chiefs is just a tough matchup. Hopefully, I'm praying that Cam Ward stays healthy because he does have the skill set to lead the Titans to a division title in the next couple of years. It's just building it around him and establishing him. I don't know what's going to happen with Brian Callahan. We see them struggle once again. Is he the guy for the future? I hope so. I always wish well to just about everybody in the sport. He seems to be a great guy, and the offense could have glimpses, but a loss against the Chiefs 29-13. If it went this way, I would just assume that he's getting fired. If they're 3-12 after that Chiefs game, or there's losses early in the year, and they start off the season like 1-7, it's too, I don't know. Is he going to be the right guy going forward? This schedule is tough, but also there's a bunch of winnable games that have them losing. It's just the tricky thing about drafting a quarterback with a team that's not great. That's what kind of keeps you in that cycle. Is you bring in a new coach, it takes you a year to get used to it. You have another struggling year, and then the next year when everything's ready, it could get hurt. Like, the NFL is so tough to have success in. Have them finishing off the year home against the New Orleans Saints, and they lose 16-14. Is it Chuck? Is it Rattler? That's a team that I have drafting highly, as well as the Titans next year, but they'll be looking at a quarterback there in New Orleans, obviously returning Kamara. Michael Thomas is no longer there. And then finale for Tennessee at the Jacksonville Jaguars, 28-20. This matchup, unfortunately, has been one of the worst in football for the last 20 years. I'm 24. As long as I've been alive, it's been one of the least important matchups. It's funny to say that because they both played in AFC Championship games in the last 10 years. Jacksonville had a lead in the fourth quarter on New England, and the Titans had a 10-point lead on the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Both had good chances to go to the Super Bowl, and it didn't work out. Why? The quarterback played consistently throughout the late stages of those games, and then Tennessee got rid of your great head coach. I'm still not going to forgive you for getting rid of Mike Vrabel, one of my favorite guys in the sport of football and just all-around solid coaches. And you get rid of Derrick Henry for nothing, and you trade away A.J. Brown a couple years ago. That's not the moves. Okay, you're going to be rebuilding, but if you're a Titans fan, hang in there, buckle up, because it's going to be a couple years with how good the Houston Texans are, and especially the rest of the AFC with that great quarterback play. If Cam Ward's to be the guy, you have to build players around him, and just Calvin Ridley is not going to be enough to do it, as much as I like Tyler Lockett. Thank you so much for watching, though. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, if the Titans are going to be much better than I'm leading them on to be. Subscribe for more content in the future. It's still very fun to talk about this. Cam Ward was such a pleasure to watch. I got to see him play once in person against the UCLA Bruins in 2023 when he was with Washington State. Liked a bit of what I saw. The UCLA defense was really good, so it wasn't the best play for him. But overall, subscribe for more content coming out from me as the season gets closer, and also during the year. You could be watching this throughout and during this season, so make sure to stay tuned for more in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.